Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. We are so happy to be with you again in another online event. And today I'm thrilled to present to you our guests today, who are very distinguished representatives of the financial sector. And they are Mr. Emre Carter, the CEO and board member of Citi Turkey, Mr. Paolo Monaco, the director of small and medium-sized enterprises finance and development from EBRD, and Ms. Hande Işlak, deputy head of EBRD Turkey and Turkey regional head of manufacturing and services sector. You are most welcome to our online podcast. Today, our hot topic is indeed somehow in the nexus of all our platforms. As you might have remembered, they are the sustainable development, digital transformation, and global supply chains. So when Hande Hanım came up with the idea of this program and asked about relevancy to our region, we just replied as bullseye. So these were the issues that we've been working on and trying to develop our narrative, as these are the key issues that are going to affect the competitive power of the companies and competitive power of Turkey. And in this program, we are going to deliberate on how the banking sector can contribute to the green and digital transformation of the supply chains. And by the way, all our viewers are very welcome to submit their comments and questions during the broadcast. And we are at the eve of a grassroots transformation to a greener economy, or is it just becoming a buzzword? Sometimes we can't help but wonder if the world is on the right trajectory to prevent or mitigate a global catastrophe, which possesses itself as an imminent threat to the nations, and among which Turkey is likely to be one of the biggest toll bearers. And as you said, by the way, we are quite stringent on this issue. And until now, under the overarching umbrellas of our sustainable development and digital transformation platforms, we gave comprehensive coverage of COP26, and we will do even more so during the COP27. We are going to be together on this event by our members, and we stream inspiring webcasts to showcase best practices of our members who are leading their sectors with best practices in digital and green transformation, and have been a major contributor to the healthy development of the impact investment ecosystem of the country. And in triggering partnerships between our members and the startups, we are carrying out some initiatives which are also focusing on green and digital transformation. Apart from all these, I would like to take a break and hand over the word to Hande Hanım. And we know you've been a major contributor to the green transition in our country for over a decade now, yes. And can you tell us about the EBRD's activities, strategy, and perspective in Turkey so that we can link it to the agenda at hand?
Thank you very much, Serkan Bey. Good afternoon, everyone. We are very pleased to be in this webinar together with YESAD members. It's very true that we have many common themes that we can explore with YESAD. And as a start point, we have chosen supply chain finance program that we are developing with partner banks in Turkey. But before I directly dive into the program, I would like to give a bit of an overview about EBRD, although I'm quite certain that many of your members are aware of EBRD, but let's look at the numbers just to understand
Please.
how impactful EBRD is in Turkey.
Please.
So I want to go through quickly on the numbers. First of all, EBRD is an international finance institution, so it's basically owned by countries, 71 countries, dominantly EU countries, 54% belongs to EU. The other large shareholders are USA, UK, Japan, and of course, the EBRD countries are also shareholders. Just to give an example, Turkey is also the shareholder of EBRD. We are a very strong bank with a 30 billion capital, and we are a AAA rated bank. Where we operate, as you may understand from our name, as a development bank, we operate on only developing countries. So in Europe, our borders start with Central Eastern Europe, and we invest to the east up until Mongolia, majorly in Central Asia. And on the south, we invest in Caucasus, Turkey, and we go up down to Central Eastern Mediterranean region, majorly Egypt, Jordan, Morocco, and Tunisia. But in this map, you can understand that Turkey takes the lion's share from its investments. Before I go back to the numbers that we achieved in Turkey, I first would like to explain what we are trying to achieve in Turkey, because we have a clear country strategy in Turkey where we believe all our projects should serve for this country strategy. So we focus on 4 key areas. One is resilient. We would like to make sure that Turkish financial sector becomes resilient. We usually use a team where we help Turkish private sector to improve in the knowledge economy, to increase its high value added activities, its innovation, and its good governance. We also focus heavily on inclusion. We would like to improve the economic inclusion, youth inclusion, and gender inclusion in EBRD activities. And last but definitely not the least, it is very much important focus for EBRD. We focus to accelerate Turkey's green economy transition. So in Turkey, if we look at the numbers, we are operating here since 2009. And in the last 13 years, it will be right to say that we become one of the largest foreign investors in the country. Turkey at the moment is the largest portfolio country of all EBRD operations, and in many years, with small exceptions, we also took the largest investments in a single year in Turkey. When we are investing, as I said, we focus on innovation, resilient financial sector, energy efficiency, renewable energy, sustainable infrastructure, and regional and economic inclusion. In the last 13 years, up until July 2022, EBRD invested 16.5 billion in Turkey through 378 projects. Very importantly, here in Turkey, we are majorly investing in private companies. Yes, EBRD in other country operations involved in public sector sovereign projects, but in Turkey, since it has a very solid private sector, we usually majorly invest in private sector. That's why out of this 16.5 billion portfolio, 87% belongs to private sector. We also have a quite even coverage with respect to industry sectors. So 28% of our portfolio belongs to banks and financial institutions. Above 33 belongs to corporate sector, which majorly covers industry, agribusiness, nature resources, telecom, property, tourism, and SMEs. And roughly 40% goes to infrastructure and energy projects. Of course, we are investing in different forms. We could enter into all level of balance sheet. We majorly provide our products in the form of debt. So we finance projects, investments, and capex programs of corporates. But in the meantime, we can also become an equity investor in Turkish corporates. As of today, 14% of our portfolio belongs to our equity investments, where we act as a shareholder, minority shareholder in our clients' companies. At the same time, we participate to the bonds. And we work also on different products, and one of them will be the subject of today's webinar, which is our supply chain finance program. This is what we do with the private sector and our clients, but also we do many things with authorities. We are running various policy dialogues with different ministries. We already achieved a lot with respect to PPPs in Turkey and with respect to Turkey's National Energy Efficiency Action Plan. But at the same time, our engagements are ongoing with, for example, capital markets boards on the legislation on crowdfunding and bondholders' rights. We work with Ministry of Industry on 2 critical programs. One is Hamle program. Actually, we are one of the key drivers of the development of Hamle program, which fosters Turkey's innovation and high technology production. So we work with Ministry on that, and we develop the program together with Ministry. Very importantly, again, we work with Ministry of Industry and Technology to develop the low carbon pathway on 4 key hard to abate sectors: aluminum, steel, cement, and fertilizer. On the inclusion side, we work with Ministry of National Education to be able to develop the vocational testing and training centers. So overall, EBRD is well positioned between private sector and the authorities, and have a good and sound appetite to continue its operations in Turkey like we did in the past. What we would like to talk today is particularly focused on our new framework, which is supply chain solutions framework, which is quite new for us, but of course it's a well-known product in the market. And we are very fortunately developing our first project in Turkey with our partner Citibank. So I would like to now leave the floor to Ms. Emre Carter to explain Citibank's position and the knowledge on that program and the product. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hande Hanım. Please, Emre Bey, floor is yours.
Thank you, Hande Hanım. Thank you, Serkan Bey. And hello, everyone. It's great to be here with all of you here today around this, topic, which is dear to all of our hearts, I think. And I think with this distinguished audience here today, I think I'm going to be preaching to the choir. But let me start with the importance of how a reliable and sustainable supply chain has gotten an enormous amount of importance in our world today. Look, I think you may all acknowledge that, to say the least, the world is a very interesting place at the moment, and it's nothing new. It's actually started with the trade wars 6-7 years back, and clearly followed by COVID and the pandemic. And what we have observed, a humanitarian and healthcare crisis, turned into a manufacturing and production, sustainability and continuity crisis. Or I think at least parts of the world. And well, Turkey, I guess, had a very good sort of exemplary efforts, but parts of the world clearly suffered. And then all sorts of other issues like the lack of enough supply of microchips, the closure of Suez Canal. I think it all, fed up to this story. And I guess obviously, clearly this year, another humanitarian crisis, the war between Russia and Ukraine, and added a lot of flavor here. But I think that this story has been in the make for at least 7-8 years.
Yeah.
So I think we even now discussed, after many decades, is there now a place for a deglobalization or discussions around nearshoring and production? And I guess it used to be the most determinant factor in our supply chain was the production, the quality and the price. But now the price, regardless of the price, how the name of the game is basically turning into a supply security and continuity. So all this has implications on our, again, global commodity prices and how all this cost factors has been putting a lot of emphasis on the, I think, inflation globally. But more so also for all of you in the call today, I'm sure from your treasury point of view, this has put an enormous amount of pressure in your working capital needs, and sustaining this working capital. I think one part goes with the supplier and the payments, and maintaining this health of the your supply chain is again what we've seen and observed is exponentially had some disadvantages at the moment. Look, I think I should say the brighter side of the equation. This represents an enormous amount of additional opportunity for our country, and we've been covering Turkey's advantages and in the global arena of productivity or how a sustainable supply chain has been flourishing here because of its location, its easy access to 1.4 billion people in our region, combined with Europe, Middle East, North Africa, Central Asia, commanding to a $26 trillion of a GDP, And I think 40% of the global trade is happening, around us in the region. So these are all the known knowns. But what is, I guess, more important today, with its young demographics and its skilled and resilient workforce, Turkey is one of the few countries now emerging as a beneficiary of all these, challenges. And we, in the same time, 5-6 years in the make, we also observed that, Turkish suppliers of the multinationals, how they became not only supplying to the Turkish factories, but suddenly, during COVID, almost overnight, they became suppliers to the network of our multinationals and supplying to the factories globally. Again, for the same reason, no big surprise to anyone. Word of mouth travels first, and we also observe that more and more multinationals and include Turkey there to their supply management and basically capitalizing on the others' success. So all these developments, I think, for my institution, it bodes well with the City Turkey's priorities. And as City, we've been, again, our main mission is supporting the foreign direct investment to the country, and in turn supporting our multinationals in their journey here in the country. And so that this, obviously, in all decades that we've been operating here, it remained our top priority. Another priority that we have is to support Turkish companies in their journeys to expand globally, at least regionally first, but many of them are now globally expanding. So this supply chain management is what we see is a good enabler of that ambition. And again, I think net this will hopefully also further boost Turkish exports. Well, our third priorities, I think, can be summarized in a group of ambitions around digitization and sustainability. Maybe digitization is another day subject, but let's focus on sustainability and ESG today. How these programs are mainly achieving all of our priorities, and nonetheless cities. Look, we all have a ESG agenda, and this became an integral part of our business model, embedded in all our products and services we offer. We continue to evolve here, and in this ever-changing world of priorities, I should say, because I think this year what we observed is also how the priorities are in the mix at the moment. But clearly, again, Citi has committed $1 trillion sustainable finance by 2030. We have already provided at least 1/5 of it during year 2020 and 21. And again, for our part of the world, we have intermediated $6 billion of funding linked to ESG, linked to green financing in the last 5 years in the country. And I think all our programs and that's why I think our partnership with EBRD is quite timely here, and is of great importance to enable us basically to hit our targets as Citi in years to come, and hopefully helping also our multinational clients to transition into net zero. So, Serkan Bey, let me stop here and turn it back to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Emre Bey. I mean, not only advocating for our joint agenda items that we also formulated with your support and guidance, it is our pleasure to congratulate you on acting upon it as Citi. So that the digital and green transformation of not only the big companies, but also the SMEs, the companies that are present in the supply chains of these companies, are carrying out right now. So thank you very much for your insights on this one. And we definitely share your comments about, we always hear the narrative stating the positivities of Turkey, advantages of Turkey, that is promoting our country as an investment destination. Starting from the beginning of COVID, we really saw that those are facts. I mean, we are living in them, and sometimes we are underestimating them. But those are facts, and our companies, our private sector, is really agile to grasp those opportunities that you stated. And we also share that we are on such interesting times as a world, and the repercussions of global developments are really affecting countries making decisions and reacting to those even political events that are affecting global trade and global investments. Emre Bey, thank you very much for your insights and all your contribution to this agenda. And at this point, we will give the floor to Paola Bey, Mr. Monaco, so that he can introduce this new tool. As Hande Hanım stated, new to Turkey, but it's a tool that bank has been implementing for some time. And the floor is your, Paolo. We will really appreciate your detailed information on the mechanism.
Thank you very much, Serkan Bey, for the introduction, and I'm really happy to be here. I'm really happy to be here with all of you. And maybe if I can get just the presentation back, as I will cover I won't cover page by page, but just maybe the first page, and then I'll run through it. If we can go to the next page, one more, yeah, and that's it. To the next one. Yes, that's the one. So we heard from Emre Bey the challenges that we are going through, that we're familiar with, in terms of the dynamics that have made supply chain a very hot topic. And this is exactly the reason why we are very excited about the product, and for now this is a very important time for us to sort of increase this business. We didn't hear so much, Emre Bey, maybe out of modesty, about the city's operational excellency and long history as being the market leader in supply chain financing. But this is the reason why, as EBRD, we wanted to partner with Citi on this. And maybe just very briefly, what does EBRD bring into this equation? And really, there's sort of three main points. I'll cover them. I mean, the first one is quite simple, really. Sometimes there are certain programs, supply chain financing programs, that buyers would like to sort of increase to cover more suppliers, maybe also in other geographies, not only domestic ones. We're very keen participants, and so we'd be very happy to work together with other lenders to make these programs bigger. And I wouldn't call EBRD a contrarian investor, but I think we are a counter-cyclical investor. So we demonstrated over the years that we tend to invest in good, bad, and even ugly times, I'd say. And I think we demonstrated that over the past sort of 10 years or so, also in Turkey. So there is a point for that. And the second part is our very strong focus as a development institution. It's only natural on ESG standards, and sort of improving those. And in particular, what we'd like to focus on is sustainable supply chain financing. And in essence, the best way to explain it to all of you on the call is you as a buyer, you will have certain priorities for your supply chain, and you know what they are. Depends on your consumers, it depends on your direction, it depends on many factors that can either be focused on making them more environmentally friendly, having better social standards, improved governance, or simply more digitally savvy. You decide what the priorities are. And what EBRD would like to bring to the equation is the ability to have, for those suppliers that reach certain milestones, and together we will define those milestones will be, some sort of incentive, so that there is a positive incentivization in improving the supply chain. Now, again, where does that money come from? The money comes from us, but really comes from donors that have entrusted EBRD, institutions like the European Union, but also individual sort of donors entrusted EBRD to work on programs exactly like this. And if we go a couple of pages back, I just wanted the third advantage that we bring As you know, transforming a supply chain, particularly when you have SMEs in your supply chain, is a complicated process. Why? Because it takes time for SMEs to register that this is the direction of travel. It takes time for implementing the solutions, and that comes on top of everyday's challenges. And so what we make available, some of you know that we provide direct advisory service to SMEs and mid-sized companies. And again, depending on your priorities for your supply chain, we will work with each and every SME that you would like us to work with in order to have a direct advisory project, which purpose is to implement the very modalities that we discussed in terms of improvements of their ESG or digital standards. And on the next page, just very simply some examples. So those could be, we said that it could be something that is purely related to improving the alignment of the SME with the ESG standards of the company. We have vast experience in improving the digital level of the SME, which is a precondition for supply chain financing, but also better integration in your data systems, for instance, so you can capture emission and whatnot. Or rather, more simply, the third one to the right is sometimes in order to be part of your supply chain, you may require certain standards or certain certifications that the SME or the supplier needs to have, and we'll be very happy to work with them in order to help them to achieve those. And I think there is another point that I like to stress is from time to time we may also, depending on your needs and your desires, work directly with you, the buyers. Sometimes you may, because the times are so challenging, being in the process of rethinking about your supply chain. You may be in a process of thinking about which new suppliers should I bet on in order to diversify. You may be in a process of setting out what is your ESG strategy for your supply chain, which probably is aligned with what your consumers would like, and therefore also with your operations. And you may be going through some of this thinking, and this thinking is complicated, and we would be very happy to support you as EBRD, but also make available to you a number of specialized supply chain consultants that can work on sort of shaping those plans. And then maybe if we just go to the last page, there are just some examples. I don't know if some people from our esteemed clients in the last page have joined these meetings, but of work that we've done with the SME stakeholders of three different corporations. So in the first case with Tofaş, we worked on with their suppliers in order to improve efficiencies. In the second example with CCCI, we worked on improving the governance, and we worked on improving the standards of their not only supply chain but also their wholesale system. And with Arçelik, we worked on sort of introducing a digital platform to better manage the supplier invoices. So with that, I conclude. And like I said, this is a program, joint program that we are, that we're mentioning, and it's meant to support you. It's mentioned to support your suppliers, whether they are domestic or international. And on the one side, obviously, we're very focused on ESG, but that's really not the only thing. As Emre Bey also highlighted, liquidity is extremely important, particularly in those markets, not just for you, but the supplier. So this will help your suppliers become more financially solid, and therefore for you less of a problem to deal with in difficult times. With that, I conclude. Thank you, and maybe time for questions. I pass it back to you, Serkan.
Thank you very much, Paolo. Actually, we have two pending questions that are directly linked with the implementation aspect of it. So I'll channel them for you without just waiting for other questions to populate. And how can companies submit their information requests to you about this new scheme if they would like to get detailed information about the mechanism and application process? Yes, Paulo. And also
Ah,
Emre Bey as an intermediary.
sorry, I think this is a joint program, so you're free to. We're really one entity, so you're free to send it to either of us and assume that we're working together. So we'd be very happy to provide the information.
And in the implementation, is there a business or sector-wise prioritization or distinction? Should the buyer and or the supplier be a manufacturing company? What are the limitations for implementation and application for this one?
At least on our side, there are really no implementations. I mean, a number of suppliers also provide services, so that's also important to us. The bigger the supply chain, the better it is for us. So I really wouldn't say that there are on our side specific limitations.
Okay, thank you very much.
To
And
get with the
Emre Bey,
first,
please.
maybe all our multinationals here, they have their own regional and global teams, and they know who's their contact on our side. They know who's contact on the EBRD side. They can always reach to us. And as far as the industries are concerned, I think, as Paolo mentioned, there will be a set of criteria actually attached to satisfy the ESG criteria. But apart from that, there is, I think, this goes all across all industries and also clients of EBRD and Citi.
And there's a question that may be relevant to all of you, but I'll just hit it to the floor. And we've been experiencing a huge deal of progress in ESG reporting. And there are many sustainable development affiliated reporting schemes in the world that associated parties are trying to incorporate into their business practices. How would you define the effect of these kind of programs in promoting ESG reporting and downsiding it to all the supply chains of big companies? Would you please comment a little bit on the impact of these initiatives on the ESG reporting and global green agenda?
Maybe I can come in here, Paolo, I guess. With respect to reporting, definitely this is becoming a very important ambition for all large corporates, and they are responsible to their stakeholders on this ambitious targets. And to be able to achieve these ambitious targets, they need to present to their stakeholders that they have these targets established in the whole value chain, from the very tier one up to their production process. So I think sustainability is an area where we all feel that we are on the same boat, and we have to progress and develop the standards all together, because if we miss just one segment within that value chain, that will have a huge impact. So the answer to the question is, it is inevitable to be able to stay in the global trade and the global economy. It's inevitable to adopt these technologies, to adopt these sustainable green technologies, and catch up the standards. And it will probably, the reporting will start with the multinationals, but it will also cascade down to the whole value chain.
Okay, thank you very much. And Emre Bey just pointed out a very important issue that we were trying to understand and comment on, the transformation in the supply chains, whether it is the globalization, nearshoring, or regionalization. We are observing the effects of it. And again, via programs like these, we are trying to capture the opportunities. And this is a kind of subjective question, but I would really like to hear your comments on the amount and degree of change in the global supply chains before the pandemic and during the pandemic, and opportunities that are coming in the near future, so that our firms and suppliers should be ready. And in a nutshell, how would you comment on the transitions in these supply chains? Is it in such a fast pace, or we are living the effects in a slow but transformatory, but at the same time permanent phasing out?
Serkan, let me chime in. Look, I think what's happening is quite game-changing, and I think that's why, at least for a while, and maybe longer than that, it is here to stay. And last, I think, couple of years, what we have observed, as I obviously mentioned, and I'm sure it's based on your member, profile as well. Whoever is having a manufacturing in Turkey,
Yep.
I'm sure they have also observed this. And while some other countries, I don't want to mention about some other countries in the Far East or the or the subcontinent, but while they've been sort of out of dealing with their own healthcare crisis, and production has been quite impacted. And I think it started to perhaps channeling this temporary add up in the orders to countries like Turkey, but Turkey is in a mix of a bucket of countries. I think we can easily add the periphery of EU into the Poland and the Hungary and Bulgaria and Romania into that bucket, and there's some other actually periphery in the North Africa, but amongst all these countries, I think how Turkey is standing out with its infrastructure, skilled workforce, and the capacity that we have built to absorb such a demand almost happening overnight. And that's why I think Turkey made a huge leap here. That's why how it all translated into a record-breaking exports, record-breaking capacity utilization ratios, record-breaking industry output for the last couple of years. And I think now this is the time that Turkey actually increased that capacity to further perhaps on a very targeted basis and increase capacity, increase productivity to capture for more. And that's why obviously finance is a large component in the whole mix. And clearly from a working capital, at least from a working capital point of view, this program will help greatly. So that's why it is quite timely.
Thank you very much, Emre Bey. And the following question is for you, Paolo. And you mentioned about the small business support scheme, and we are aware that most of the big companies also transforming their supply chains by setting the standards and increasing the standards of their suppliers. But for other suppliers who are trying to be a major supplier to these firms or global suppliers to these firms, would you please emphasize the important aspects that they need to take care into in terms of transformation? Where should they start? What are the things play a major role in their success in being a global scale and high quality supplier? And we also notice that the competition is getting tougher every day.
Yeah, thank you very much, Serkan Bey. Difficult question, this one. So before I answer it, let me go back a couple of questions just on the point of reporting. I just want to say one small thing. There is, of course, a giant, an elephant, so it's already giant, but an elephant in the room, which is the EU legislation that will at some point be enforced on the traceability of supply chain. It's a EU directive, has been in the sort of in discussions for a number of, I think, years, but we don't know when it will come, but it will come. And that would mean that there is even more focus on traceability of supply chains from a buyer's perspective for those that are selling in the EU. So the program that we just described before when we went through the presentation is a very helpful preparation for when that will happen. And its focus is, can be on traceability. The focus will be on data. Data is, at the end of the day, when I spoke about the incentives that are available to suppliers, at the heart of it is the verification. If they achieve the targets that we set out to achieve. So is this a program that is real ESG focused, or is it ESG washing? And at the heart of that question, assuming that the answer is yes, it's quantifiable and verifiable, is really the sort of the important part for the upcoming EU legislation. So I just wanted to mention that. As for the second and more complicated question, I think it really is a matter of honing down which of the big buyer the company would like to do business with. And I think, it's almost having seen a few of those situations over the years, I think the major bit is to be able to get the foot in the door. And to be able to get that chance, and then things are in a way in the control of the company because of the SME, because they will understand more the business and the priorities of their buyers. But in order to be able to get the foot in the door, I think it's important to understand the priorities of the buyer, and that's not just about price and quantity of the product, but as I said, more and more soft factors like ESG are very, very important, and we'd be delighted to work with any such company together with our advisors. Incidentally, those advisors mostly come from a big corporate perspective, and that's when they spend most of their career. So they can sort of, depending on the different industry, they can give the perspective of their previous working life where they've seen many suppliers coming in and out. But yeah, it's a difficult question. And one thing that we've also seen is companies that have been so keen to become suppliers of large corporates that all of a sudden they go from 0% of revenues to 100% of revenues. And that obviously has its own set of risks, and it's worth highlighting.
Thank you very much for this detail, and also your heads up for this traceability issue with the EU. That's the main problem. That's the main area that companies should need to address soon. And one question, I think it's coming from our public sector listeners to Hande Hanım. You, as the bank, and also we know you've been involved in many aspects of policy making in Turkey, especially in investment policies and business policies. The question is asking for your elaboration on the opportunities and risks of the Turkish business and investment environment. How competitive it is to serve the needs of the suppliers so that they can compete at global level. And also the attached question is kind of asking for the next items that bank is willing to introduce in Turkey. What are going to be the new products to support the business sector?
Thank you very much. I think we addressed the first question well already throughout this webinar. Turkey is definitely well positioned when it comes to its manufacturing skills, when it comes to its engineering base, infrastructure, and excellent location with proximity to key markets, including Europe. There is no doubt that Turkey, when it comes to trade, is unavoidable partner, and with a significant change in the supply base from Far East, from China to the proximate locations like Turkey, all Turkish companies from SMEs up to large corporates will really take the advantage of this trend. I think what is so key for Turkey to remain competitive, as we all know, Turkey has always been suffered by being on a innovation-wise kind of a trapped country. So our contribution on the manufacturing side always remained within the less value-added parts in the whole value chain. But over the years, Turkey is progressing, and we see a lot of engineering developing in Turkey. In some cases, we are transferring, exporting engineering from Turkey to abroad. We see excellent examples about that. So in connection with the sustainability and the green technologies, if the Turkish manufacturers can adopt these technologies quickly, of course, in collaboration with their large manufacturing customers, this will remain Turkey very competitive. And these sustainability targets, although we all know that from time to time, there is a perception that because of the politics, because of the current energy crisis, the sustainability agenda may stay a little bit behind what is desired. There is some perception we hear it from here and there, but no, that will definitely be a key agenda, and Europe will be committed. So as long as Europe remains our key trade partner, as Turkish manufacturing industry, we have to adopt these sustainable technologies to remain competitive. Otherwise, with all the advantages we have, we may miss this train, and it might be difficult to jump into this train later on. So, and when it comes to next question, what is next? As you may expect, with a bank owned by 71 countries, we are not very fast like a speedboat who could develop the products in a short time. But what we are aiming every time is to understand the need in this country. We feel that so far we were very good at addressing the needs of the country to develop and also to be able to catch up with the global competitiveness. We see a huge area that we have to invest, support in every way, with policy dialogues, with investments, and with funds to close the gap on the sustainability side. So definitely sustainability will remain our key focus, and we will find all the possible means to support the companies for the green transformation.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. And the last question goes to Emre Bey. As a major player in the finance sector, how would you elaborate on the amount of green funds that are available to Turkish market, and actually inflow of these financing tools and opportunities to Turkey, and how can we increase the amount of this fund? Some are also commenting on these projects are directly, these financing is directly coming with the availability of project financing and the pipelines. So would you please elaborate on this one? Where do we stand, and what are the growth prospects in attracting more green financing?
Sure. Look, the answer to the first part of the question is how much green financing or ESG linked or sustainability linked is available to Turkey. Is actually, the answer is a lot. Last 2 years, I think in every transaction that either Citi or other banks, other international banks, has done in this market, I think almost close to 100%. It was all, came as a green financing or ESG financing and sustainability linked. And I think now this is the time that what we feel that how we provide financing to mainly the banks and development banks and some other intermediaries and the conduits. And I guess this is particularly the last 1 year. How we see this is basically cascading down to the further financing of these institutions, and how they set the criteria, increase awareness, and there is obviously a learning curve there in the supply chain, I should say, because it all starts on one hand with the EU's Green Deal. Almost all Turkish suppliers in different industries is somehow binded with the EU's Green Deal. And again, it's financing is a big part of it, and without financing is clearly it won't be, you cannot solve a triangular sort of a problem. Then comes the how we can increase. I think on the look, medium to long term side, there has always already quite has done, and I think it will be only for perhaps more in the quarters or the years to come. What was missing is the short term, to be honest, and I think this program will greatly deal and address to how we can basically marry the two, the day-to-day commerce or the trading activities of the multinationals and the manufacturers, and tying into their suppliers. And because again, if you are basically providing a financing to a project that is directly linked to an environmental sort of a question, I think it's easy to set that link up. And for the short term, that equation doesn't come natural. That's why you need to have a set of criteria and KPIs and each company in the chain. And this is not only the first, and because everybody is supplying to each other in the when you look at to the end product. So that's why I think this is going to be greatly dealing and installing and understanding that how our daily activities turn into our commitments that we set for year 2030, 50, net zero, because again, you have to start somewhere, and I think this is a good start.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you very much for all of you for bringing this initiative into life and implementing in Turkey. And thank you for all the information that you provided for our listeners, for our firms. And we will do our best to disseminate this information and this opportunity to our member firms and their immediate suppliers. And we, as I said, complemented study at the beginning of COVID, trying to assessing the global supply chain opportunities for Turkey. And even at those times where the fog of the event was still around, the immediate opportunities was around 12 billion US dollars of additional exports at annual level. And it was just coming from the items that Turkey has been producing. Turkey has been producing competitively. So the opportunities are there. And while defining how to grasp those opportunities, actually, in a way, we pointed out these kind of support tools that are necessary to be introduced into the market and would be beneficial for us to upgrade our suppliers. So thank you again for introducing this one and supporting this agenda by your operations. It was a pleasure hosting you all.
Same here. Thank you, Serkan Bey.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Likewise, thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.